Good morning and welcome. On this Thursday morning, this is Coffee with Campus Consultancy, episode 14. And this morning, we're joined by the amazing Thomas. Good morning, my friend.
Hello. I love that intro, man.
You do?
It's so good. I love it.
I appreciate it. The amazing Anthony at ANG Media, if anyone's out there and interested, was a student in a build a business style class that we created. So it's cool to see them go on and flourish and just kick butt in the world.
So good. I love it.
Yeah, my man. So tell the world, who is Thomas? What is Thomas all about?
So Thomas is from Argentina. I'm rocking my my cup here. I don't know if it goes
it's the right way around.
So Thomas is really passionate about entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and really what I've come to lately is I just want to make a better world. And I think that by solving problems and planting seeds, and we were talking about this earlier, just planting seeds and see if there's more and more people solving problems through entrepreneurial endeavors that are sustainable over time, then hopefully we come up with a better world. So that's a big passion I have.
I love it. And where do you?
Yep.
That was going to be my next question. What's your vehicle for this? Which car are you driving right now?
Yeah, I'm really lucky to be working at the University of Queensland at the UK Ventures there, where we teach entrepreneurship across all faculties, all disciplines. Doesn't matter what you study, you can come in and pick up some tools, meet some pretty cool people, and we'll help students just go from I have no idea what to do to accelerating their startup.
I love that.
Fantastic.
In terms of when students come into whether it's a class, a workshop, a program, or just a community event, do you find are all students coming in and being very open to diving in at the deep end, or is there sometimes a little bit of hesitancy and you're like, oh, I don't know what this whole entrepreneurship thing's about. I've not done a business degree. I've never done this before. How does that come up?
We get the full spectrum. You get the super keen student who has an idea and think the idea is going to change the world and have this amazing energy. And you also get the sort of like the students that I have my friend that's doing this stuff and it sounds cool and I always see them from afar and I thought always it was cool, but I have no idea what it is. How do I start? What do I do? Can I just join someone? So we get the full spectrum.
Yeah.
It's important that there has to be a space for everyone. It's important that students don't feel like you have to be that other guy to be an entrepreneur.
And when they do come in, is there a question you ask or is there an activity you get them to do, whether it's as like a traditional kind of icebreaker, or is there something that you do at the start of your programs or your courses to try to get them to feel or to help them to feel like this is a place that they belong, and even if they're unsure, they can this is a place where they can experiment and try new things? Do you have any tips or tricks there?
Yeah, so two big things, I think. I always ask what problem to solve, because they all come with solutions, and we need to start to think problem-wise, and skills-wise, but stop thinking about we create a solution and we are not aware of all the assumptions that went in to build that solution, or we are not aware of that solution is sort of like a house of cards and it can just fall apart so easily if you don't explore why you built it. So it's really important asking what problem are you solving? Why are you solving this problem? Why are you going to spend all this time and effort and hours and resources into it? So that will tell me a lot about where the person is at. So if they tell me, if they take like 10 minutes to explain me the problem, then they don't really get their problem. Sometimes they don't know the problem, and and sometimes they're really good, and they're like, oh, this is the problem, and that works too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
it's a
else.
really
Yeah,
different
sorry.
it's a different mindset, isn't it, from the idea that you're always looking for the solution, which I think is a very traditional education model of,
Mm.
we give you the problem, your job is to get the solution. By the way, the solution's in the back of the book. Check there first, then come and ask me if you need some help. It's always like solution, solution, solution. But obviously, a big part of entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, is there are lots of problems in the world, which is an opportunity for you to pick one and really go into it. But if you don't understand that problem well, or if you think, one of the things that I see a lot is people think that they're the first one to ever discover a problem. They're like, oh my gosh, plastic straws. Have you heard about plastic
Yeah.
straws? Well, we've heard about it. People are working on this. And often there's a lot of solutions on the first page of Google. So I often wonder what are some different ways that people can, if they are looking at a problem, that they can try to understand it more and dig into the problem first. But anyway, we can come back and chat about that. I just think that's such a good insight. I think that is such a good insight. If people get nothing else out of how is entrepreneurship different from everything, it's problem focused first, and every movie and depiction of it makes it look like it's this brilliant idea in a dorm room in a American college.
Yeah, no, man. I think it's first finding a good problem that needs to be solved, that's worth solving, and
Yes.
then it's execution. The solution in the middle, like, because usually it's got like, problem, solution, execution. The solution is, it can be anything. It does not
Yes.
matter. You cannot sell your solution. You must sell your execution and something that you actually build. So
Oh, I like that. You can't
that's
sell
it.
your solution. You can only sell your execution. That's good. I like that a lot. Now, I jumped in and interrupted you there. So sorry. You said there were two parts. You said the first part was the problem.
Yeah, man. The second part, and I just like to tell stories.
I love
I
stories.
just like to tell. I love stories. Yes, yes. Because we were talking earlier about this a little bit, and how we've been talking about this for a while, like in how we noticed that a lot of the young people that come talk to us feel this drive / anxiety to get involved, right? They're like, and I get this in the sort of the spectrum of people that come talk to me. It's like, man, I don't know how, I don't know what, but I gotta do something. Like, there's all these things going on in the world. I feel like I need to be part of this. I need to change this. I need to participate. And so I was I was reading a book. I can't remember the book. I feel like I'm gonna steal this metaphor. But I'll steal it, and then I'll search for it. It was probably maybe Brene Brown's book, or Tim Ferriss' book, or maybe Simon Sinek. It's one of those three. Probably it's
There's a good chance
forgetting
that most of
immediately.
the things we say come from one of, half a dozen pretty reliable sources.
Yeah. So basically, the story is it's a story of a hermit crab, and hermit crabs are pretty amazing. I'm not a biologist. I'm an economist. So if I give any, just go with the story, everyone. And if I make mistakes, you can put them on the comments or on the, and then I'll adjust my story. But my understanding of hermit crabs is they don't build their own shell. So these creatures are very, very vulnerable. They're very smooshy and tasty, probably for predators. So they find a shell and they start to grow, and then once they are outgrew their shell, they have to go change. And in the change, there's a lot of risk of being attacked and eaten. So they're in a house, they grow, and then eventually they have to leave that, go find some place else, and you never know how far that can be, right? It can be next to them, or that can be a few meters away, which can be pretty scary, I imagine.
Yes.
So I was putting together my workshop for social enterprises that we finished last week, and I started to think how similar that is to I think people these days, and especially young people. I also work with high schools. We run entrepreneurship workshops in high schools, and I see it also there in year 10, 11, 12. It's this anxiety of what's going on. I don't know what to do. How do I do things? And I'm starting to think that we are that hermit crab, and we've outgrown our shell. we are just like awareness wise, we understand what's going on, we know what have to do, but you know what, it's so scary to leave that comfort of what we know and go find the new shell. We
Yes.
need to be vulnerable, we need to take risks. We've no idea if it's going to take 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years to find it.
Mm.
And we are so like smooshy while we change, but the alternative is terrific. It's terrible, which is starving ourselves and to fit
Mm.
into the shell that we are in. You know,
Yes.
it's like you in a way you have to stop growing so that you can stay within the confines of what you knew. So, man, like I think if you are feeling anxious, if you're feeling that drive,
Mm.
you need to know that it's just you've just outgrown it, and now it's time to go like sort of take ownership of that, some like sort of like agency. Go find your next shell.
Yeah.
Go find that project.
I think that's a really interesting insight. And I think the idea of you can only grow as big as the shell that you're in. And regardless of um, whether that's like an unhappiness or it's not aligned with your values or it's anxiety or it's fear, or if that shell is holding you in and growth is limited, we always say like progress. This is a direct Robbins line. He always says progress equals happiness. If you're growing, happiness tends to increase. You know, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, whatever. If that's increasing, but the idea of fitting in, and this is a Brene Brown stolen quote. She always says, like the opposite of fitting in is belonging. And that idea of like when you grow to that size that you're meant to be, when you can really flourish and you have to take some risk and vulnerability, but fitting into a shell that holds you in that size, like that's not belonging. You don't belong there.
Mm.
It's the opposite. You're fitting there. You're forcing yourself
Yeah,
to fit there.
fit literally, right? You fit in that shell.
Yes.
uh, I think it's important though uh, to mention that grow is not about money, right? It's not
Yes.
financial grow, it's not even about growing your startup. This is it's a more holistic grow, right? And you just mentioned Brave Browns and sort of growing who you are and you as a person, whatever makes you happy. It has not have to be to go out there and making money. It can be growing your impact, it can be growing just your happiness.
Yeah.
um I think it's important. We got to be careful because right now, like, there's all these grow your skills. Like, while you're in quarantine, after the quarantine, you got to be like a five, like 3-star Michelin chef.
Yes.
Um, and and then like I was feeling really anxious about that. Like you feel like, and then like what, how everyone is just doing their best,
Mm-hmm.
but you gotta be sort of yourself all the time. It's like, okay, so how am I feeling? What's going on? Like, and if you've been feeling like this for a while, then there's something, you're touching the walls of the shell. You're inside, and then you're starting to feel smooshy, and it's like,
Yeah.
so what's going on? How can I? What's the next growth? But it's so scary.
It is. And the next stage I'd love to chat to you about is if students are in that place, or there's colleges, faculties who are interested in, trying some of this out, teaching students some of these skills, giving them some really tangible ways to deal with vulnerability and deal with the unknown. I'd love to talk about how we get into that. Obviously, jumping in the comments, we've got Anouk, Christine, Jerry. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. If you are listening in this morning, if you're wondering about entrepreneurship, whether it's you've got an idea, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to teach some of these skills, you want a great resource to go and start with, you've got a business idea or a problem that you want to solve and you're not quite sure how, jump in the comments, let us know. Or there's a link as well to this stream. If you want to jump in, say hello. You're always very, very welcome. And one final note before we move on as well, an organization that we do love, Kua Coffee, who are impact partners for this show, obviously growing their impact and helping more and more people. So if you are interested, if you are tuning in, screenshot this little window, share it, tag Kua, and they'll be giving out some coffee every week, which not only does good, world positive coffee, but is also pretty delicious. So Thomas, when it comes to students, they come in, they hear your beautiful metaphor and your storytelling, and they say, okay, I'm ready to maybe take off the old shell and I'm going to go and try and look for a new project or a new team. When they start with a social enterprise, when they start with a business or a problem and they come in and they say, you know what I'm really passionate about? I'm really passionate about gender equality, or I'm really passionate about the environment, or I'm really just passionate or driven towards solving the problem of X. Where's a really great place for them to start? Like, what's a practical first step that they can take?
Yeah. So first thing I tell them is to sign up for our workshops.
Yeah, of course. Good.
I think what's really cool about Australia and the education system and everyone here is so open and willing to help you out. And so first thing is go reach out. Sort of if you're not in the university system, doesn't matter.
Yes.
Go reach out. Go send Josh a message, and everyone can send me a message here. Just direct message me on LinkedIn. Add me. There's people who leave signs, so you're leaving your shell and you're like, which way do I go to? And maybe there's a sign there that will tell, like, hey, to the right you've got these options, to the left there's this option, and it's like a bit of a map of what's going on. Now it's not really a map, it's just signs, because no one understands what's going on really.
Yes.
But just finding someone that can help you out with, hey, that way you got this going on.
Yes.
That's,
I like that metaphor of signs. I think that's cool. I've never heard it articulated like that before. If it's not a map, but it's signs. And sometimes you go bushwalking and there might be a sign and it's actually a longer route. It's going to be harder to go that way, but it's also like the whole point of bushwalking is not to get to the end, get back to the car quickly and drive home. It's like go and have a bit of an adventure and learn some things and see some things.
Exactly. And then I think the first step, so that's like step -1. Step 1 is you have to go talk to people, and that's a big thing, and that will save you a lot of time. Go talk to whoever you want to help. That's just sort of identify your users, your beneficiaries, your customers. It doesn't matter if they're the same person, and that we're getting into like deeper social enterprise.
No, that's good.
Jargon, but go find whoever you want to help and go spend time with them. Go talk to them. And yeah, it's not about surveys. So don't do, like, surveys are good. I don't want to say, like, I don't want to be like a black or white person, but having conversations.
Yeah.
Way better.
It was really interesting. I was having a chat with a social enterprise group last night for a project that we're running, and they asked 3 questions, and I'd love to know what you thought about this. I thought this was 3 really beautiful questions. So the problem they were trying to solve was they're looking at the idea of people who want to buy or buying sustainable goods, whether that's clothes or keep cups or, who gives a crap, toilet paper or whatever. And the problem they were identifying was, it's in a little bit more detail, but simply from a customer perspective, people don't know where to go to buy all these things. You kind of hope Woolworths or Coles will stock a couple of good products, but if they don't have a sustainable bread or a sustainable milk or whatever you want, if it's not on the shelf, you can't really buy it. And without like going down an internet dark hole. And so the problem they were looking at was like, okay, what they wanted to know, their first assumption was, do people want to buy sustainably? And that was the first question. Overwhelmingly, people were like, yes, I'd buy sustainably. And then the second question was, do you know where to go to buy sustainably? And it was something like 60% of people said no. And the third question, they sort of put their solution out there because they're a little bit further along and said, would you be interested in this? And lots of people were like, yeah, that'd be amazing. But the first and second question I thought was so well structured of like, is this a desire you actually have? Yes. Is this a problem you have that's linked to that desire? Yes. And so like straight away, they were able to say 60%, like of all these people, X percent want to do this thing, but 60% actually don't even know where to go. It's sort of like, it makes me think of when you were talking about the anxiety and mental health of like, are you suffering from mental health? Yes. Do you know where to get support? No. And like in that delta, in that gap, like so many people can fall down through that gap. But you never get that unless you went out and actually spoke to people and then dug into, obviously, much, much deeper.
Yeah.
What kind of products? Where do you want to go? How much would you spend? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So there's a danger in asking those type of questions. And I tell this always to every team that I work with and people that I work with. If your solution, if you go to interviews and your solution looks very similar to your initial idea, you gotta be, you don't trust that.
Yes.
That's my suggestion.
Yep.
Unless you are a user, yourself. So what's probably happening with this team that you mentioned is like they've been wanting to do that, and they've run across the problem themselves. So then
Yep.
it gives them a deeper understanding. But it
Yes.
sounds like some of those questions are like validating your own assumptions.
Mm.
So that's very dangerous, because then that leads to sort of self-bias. And
Yeah.
when
And
I'm
so
talking about having, sorry,
go on.
I lost my
On.
video. I don't know if sorry. The type of questions that I'm asking, saying it's not asking questions, having a conversation.
Yes.
And it is and effort and a lot more planning, to make sure that you don't. It would start sort of like, hey, so what type of products do you consume?
Yes.
Have you had trouble finding any of these products? It's like you start.
Yeah.
So because the beauty of asking, or sort of starting with wider, and maybe they did, and this just
Yeah, this is like week 3. I skipped those steps. I was like, they did all of that, and now they're at this point to. So,
yeah,
but what you're saying is very important.
validating it.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
like when you start, you want to make these wider questions, because then there's this you don't know what you don't know. And when you have conversations, when you're not asking questions about your product or your idea or your solution, just conversations, you will learn about things you had no idea. And the users themselves will tell you the features of your product. They will tell you how to sell it. They will tell you where to put it, what they want, what they don't want. It's just a matter of having a conversation to keep track of that.
Yeah.
But man, conversations are scary, just going up to a stranger and telling them, hey, I have a conversation. I have this. You cannot tell them there's your solution. You can't tell them like, hey, I'm trying to solve these. You can't, because then you're already predisposing them. So you gotta go like, hey, can I have a conversation? I saw you buy this type of products, and I'm sort of buying the same things. You have to find a way to start to have those conversations.
Yeah. Do you use the empathy map canvas? Have you come across that?
Oh yeah, we use it a lot. I think
Yeah.
it's it was one of the first things that were like that I felt like, man, this is different. Like this is a bit more sort of like, I don't want to say radical, but starting with empathizing with your users.
Yeah.
It's something that you would normally not think of in entrepreneurship or finance or economics or stuff like that. I'm an economist. I never thought about that, and I know about that because I've done meditation, and I meditate every day, and so empathizing has been a big part of my growth. So then when I come across the empathy map, and it's like the first step of design thinking, I go like, of course, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
it makes so much sense. The more you understand what's going on with your users, the more you understand what they want, what they feel, what they're scared of, what are their pains and gains, to talk in sort of like value proposition canvas language. The more you understand them, the better products you can create for them, right?
For sure. And this is when we're always going with students of like, how does this link to student engagement? We teach staff, we teach student leaders, mentor programs, faculties, anyone. If you want to add value to your students, you need to understand them. And the deeper and deeper and deeper you can go with something like Empathy Map Canvas, they will tell you exactly what their problems are. And like I always use that phrase, a problem well defined is a problem half solved. So like we'll sit down with students, and if you want to, if you want to engage a group of students, find out what their 5 or 10 biggest problems are. Like what annoys them? What do they want in life? And then what stops them getting that? Find all the barriers. And then students will sit down. I love it. I always say students, the best thing about students is they love to complain, which is awesome. They'll tell you all their problems. They'll give you 20 problems. And if you can design a product or a service or an event or a program and it solves 1, 2, or 3 of these problems, then they're pulled towards it. You have to push it down their throat because they're like, I already have this problem. I know I have this problem. And they know they have it because they've told you about it in an interview. Whereas if you're like, I think you have this problem, and they're like, no, I don't, they're not going to come to your event because there's no value prop. So it's that skill of if you're looking at this and you're like, okay, I need to take away something to do, check out something like Empathy Map Canvas, the whole idea that empathy is the first part of design thinking. And that's what throws that thing on its head of, oh, I need an idea to start a business. It's like, no, you probably need to just speak to 100 people or 200 people first. Because as you say, it's...
Definitely.
Problem and
And
execution, not the idea.
yeah, and there's a nice trick that I've done with a project I've started before, and it's just find one problem of your users, just one, just you need this one hint, so you don't have to go to 100 interviews, and then build an event to bring everyone together and gather the other 100 problems. So
Oh, that's good. I like that. So find one problem, run an
you have
event
one
around
problem.
it.
Exactly. And you can build a workshop. So say your staff or you're in uni, or you can build like a 2 hour. It has to have value for them. So it's not just about, okay, let's have 2 hours of conversations. No, it's okay, how do we move past this problem? And you find an expert on that problem, give them a solution, but at the same time, you have to build into the workshop activities that after the workshop will fill in that empathy map. That will feel those pains and those gains the students are after. So that's another way of, instead of going out there and having 100 conversations with students, just bring the 100 students to you and build it into your workshop to capture those sort of conversations and those insights. Like ultimately, you're looking for that one insight that will trigger everything.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like a problem magnet, isn't it? Find one problem, bring a whole bunch of people in.
Yeah, never thought about that as a magnet, but 100%. But it's going back to vulnerability, and sort of, I think it is scary, like doing new things and trying new things and having conversations. And I think vulnerability will lead to being genuine.
Yes.
Because you are vulnerable, you're yourself, and then no matter what interview you're having, what business you're starting, who you're asking help for, who you're pitching, if you're presenting, man, if you're genuine, people connect to that. And if people connect to that, then they'll help you, they'll tell you, they'll talk to you, they will understand that you're there to build something that's going to help them. So it sort of comes full circle. It's you can have all the tools and you can have all design thinking and everything, but man, I still feel like it starts with being vulnerable, with being genuine, and putting yourself out there.
I love that. I couldn't agree more, mate. I was saying right at the start that half an hour goes by super quick. We're 28 minutes in. We're almost there.
It's insane. I could keep talking for a few hours.
I know, it's good fun. It's fun to talk about this, and I like the ideas that when people listening in live and commenting, thank you for those of you who'll be watching this a little bit later in the day, as you've been messaging me and telling me that you like to do. What are some things that if people are going, okay, I'm more interested now, I'm at least curious about this whole entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship world, where could they go? Are there any like resources or books or TED Talks or YouTube series or TikTok accounts or anything like that that you like to go to for your own kind of inspiration or development or learning?
Yeah, I think so. Design thinking is a pretty interesting, easy methodology to go for. At least easy in this, like the surface.
Yes.
So if you just literally Google design thinking, there's heaps of videos and stuff. And we are at UQ Ventures, we're putting up also new content on our YouTube channel and starting to work on that slowly. So I think that's one thing. The other thing that I've been doing myself is I'm starting to go down the SDGs path and looking at the SDGs, right? The Sustainable Development Goals, and man, it's insane how much detail you have there. So what's really cool about them is you can start at a very general, like sort of, I'm interested in hunger or in poverty, but then you click, and there's like 1,000 more different aspects of poverty or hunger, and they tell you all the interconnectedness, and then you click into another one, and then you keep going down until you come to a project or an idea or a statistic, and then there you gotta find that statistics that really hits home. It's like there's, for example, there's 33 million young people in our area, Asia Pacific, this area where Australia is, that are unemployed or work in very poor conditions. And so how can entrepreneurship help them? That this is what I was after. So you can find that thing that will trigger your project or your passion there. I think that's a fantastic tool.
Yeah, I love the SDGs. And there's a really cool, I think it's called sdgs.org.au or something like that, where any Australian organization or program can put up their project and it maps to all the different SDGs. So like you can click on one and then you can find 30 projects in Australia, 30 companies, entrepreneurs that are working towards that problem. So if it is employment or gender equality or sustainable products and services, which has a slightly different title, number 12, whatever it happens to be, you can find heaps of people who are already working in that area and go, oh, they're kind of doing this, or I could do it a little bit differently, or I could do that in my area. I think that's a great resource.
In a way, it's sort of saying, find that thing that resonates with who you are, that problem that resonates with who you are, and you can use the SDGs for that. And then go Google design thinking, which is like an easy tool to use, and that's going to walk you through the different steps. So in a way, you need both. You need don't go to the steps before understanding what's your values, what are your values, why you're doing it, and what's the big problem that sort of hits home with you.
I love it. Thomas, mate, thanks for jumping on. If people want to obviously connect with you or send a connection request through LinkedIn, is that a good place to go to find you?
Please, yes, 100%. I'm really active there. I'll definitely answer.
Cool. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If you're interested in anything, I think Thomas summed it up perfectly. The combination of the SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, as well as Googling something like design thinking is a really good place to start. And if you're looking to go deeper, if you want to launch a program, start something, bring a bunch of students together, create a project, reach out to myself or reach out to Thomas. And we've done it before. We do it day in, day out. We love talking about it. Obviously, we're here at 8 o'clock in the morning doing exactly that. So if we can help you, we'd absolutely love to. And I think if we work together, we can work towards solving a lot of these really big and really pressing problems. So with that, thanks for tuning in. We will see you again tomorrow at 8 a.m. This has been Coffee with Campus Consultancy, episode 14. And thank you one more time to the amazing Thomas. You're a gentleman, mate.
Thanks for having me, man.
Loved it. Thanks, mate. See you all tomorrow. All right. Broadcast.